When we look at the peripheral nervous system, everything that's doing this exit, okay, we're going to find that along this peripheral nervous system, we're going to have areas that are going to be termed a plexus. A plexus, can you see how it looks like we've got a small nerve, small nerve, small nerve, and then they're coming and meeting and making this one great big huge nerve? And then I've got all of this one coming here, this one coming here. Now I've got great big huge nerves that are exiting out, okay? What part of the body do you think this would serve? My upper arm, okay? So this is telling me a couple of things, okay? A plexus, extensive network of axons. Now y'all are gonna, as we move into this, and I stress the body, the axon, or the dendrites, or the terminal buds, okay? Hopefully y'all are going to understand exactly which part I'm referring to, okay? So, network of axons, sometimes the nerve cell body, outside the central nervous system. So we make this exit out, we end up creating these really thick nerves, okay? Because this will be a nerve, this will be a nerve, that'd be a nerve. All right, and as we learn some of the names of the nerves, this is when y'all can like tell people, you know what, you on my trigeminal nerve. And just see how they act, you know. Rather than saying you're like on my last nerve, give them the name one. Oh yeah, okay, that's kind of fun. Now, this would serve the upper part of my body here. So it would be meeting into my arm. Now think about how this nerve, if I have a muscle, what did I say entered into that muscle? It enters as one big nerve. Remember that? So this one would enter into the muscle, the great big huge nerve, and then it began to do what once it entered into that muscle? Branched out to every single fiber. So I have a brachial plexus, I'm going to have a lumbar plexus, and I'm going to have a sacral plexus. Lower body, nerves are huge in the plexi. What's wrong here?
I don't know.
Okay. Is everybody with me at this point? At this point, every bit of this is my peripheral nervous system. I haven't done anything with my central. This is outside the bones. Okay? So at this point, all of that is outside of my bones, meaning outside the bones of the vertebral column and the cranium. Okay? Everybody with me? When we have the peripheral nervous system outside of the vertebral column, everybody kind of give me the nod, they understand what I'm talking about. Okay. We're going to find two divisions. It's divided into the sensory and the motor. What? A nerve, depending on its function, can actually be a combination of both. Meaning, it can send the sensory information in to the central nervous system. And then once that central nervous system integrates that information and says, okay, well, this is the effect that I need, it can send the effect back out and either make you lift your arm, move your arm, whatever the case might be. So we say that we have the sensory division, the motor division. The sensory division is the part dealing with the receptor, sending the information towards the central nervous system. Once the central nervous system gets that information and integrates it and figures out what to do, the job is now create that action potential, meaning create the action potential that can move away from the central nervous system to its effector, meaning muscle or gland. Okay, I'm kind of like seeing some blank looks. Stop me now if you don't understand what I'm trying to say. Okay. The sensory division. Now remember, at this point, everything is outside of my vertebral column. Okay? So, let's say everyone watching me? Something higher order. But I had to pick up this pen, which means I had to get my muscles to contract and relax. Okay? So, I picked the pen up. Do I not feel some pressure from the pen? The pressure from the pen is being picked up by a sensory receptor, okay? The sensory receptor is sending information about the pressure of this pen into my central nervous system. The central nervous system is saying, okay, this is an instrument that I'm going to use, okay? And the effect that I'm looking to get is to hold on to the pen, okay? So that means whatever got integrated in my central nervous system has to move back out by way of coming to the correct muscles to make me do that. Those muscles carried out the effect of the sensory input. And because the skeletal muscle did that, my effectors are these skeletal muscles working for me to hold the pen. Does that make sense? Sounds relatively simple, right? Yes and no. Because one of the things about the nervous system, the transmission of the action potential, we've already mentioned what I'm going to get into. What am I going to get into about this system? What is it I'm going to break it down into for you guys to understand? everything is going to be dependent on the ions. Okay, so once again, well, let's add some chemicals because now we've got to deal with some neurotransmitters. Okay, why am I getting it down to that level for you guys to understand? What's my goal? Why do I want you to understand it at that level? Because if something is deficient, if we're looking at the calcium, the sodium, the potassium, and if we're now seeing that that was an affected muscle, once again, nerves are dependent on that also. They're dependent on the calcium, the sodium, the potassium. We're now going to see that the job of the nerve is to make a neurotransmitter, okay, pass an impulse, all right? So these are, once again, things that would be clinically significant. Something that you would have to understand when you're looking at the patient's records. Okay? That's how you're going to determine, doctors anyway, well, what's the medication? What's the treatment? That's what you hope they're going to go on anyway. So let's think about this for a second. Now this diagram, granted, is going to, as you look at it right now, giving you a headache? Making you wish that y'all weren't in Dr. Young's class? Or maybe saying, okay, can she just stop right here? Let's break it down. Because what we're going to find out in part 2, okay, in part 2, we're going to see a couple more divisions involved. Now, okay, let's kind of break this down. We get some type of sensory input. Now, come on, you guys. You're out hiking and you see that. What are you going to do? I'm going to run. Okay? Now, remember, I don't run. Okay? So if I'm running, that's why y'all need to follow me. Okay? Now, this means I had to have the sensory input. Okay? At this point, sensory input's a lot of things. Okay? Because, the biggest one's going to be fear. Okay? But I know I got to start running. Okay? Now, we're going to make it to my sensory division. Something that's going to send information to the divisions of my central nervous system. Now, sensory information, as part of our peripheral nervous system, where we find receptors, nerves, ganglia, and the plexuses, okay? That sensory information makes its way to these components. These components will make their way to the brain and the spinal cord. The brain and the spinal cord now have to give me an effect. So now the effect is being done by the motor division. The motor division, by way of either taking it directly to skeletal muscle, or if I have to deal with my internal, such as glands, smooth muscle, I can affect the heart muscle, but it doesn't control it. Now, think about this for a second. You see that coming at you, hopefully your heart rate's going to increase a little bit because you got to start getting blood to your skeletal muscles, okay, so that the skeletal muscles can meet the demand for you to start running. So it's going to take all of this to get my effect to start running. Now, the effector, what's going to carry out the effect, let's look at it right now, skeletal muscle, right? Because I got to get the muscles ready to start running. That's going to use heart, respiration, blah, blah, blah. Is everybody following me? So this is our nervous system. And like I said,